don't know Macy, I saw Macy's content a while ago, and she's doing something cool. She's going around, she's talking to different business owners and stuff, people that are part of Flagler County, and just get them on the podcast to give them exposure. And I love that. It's true. It's passion behind it. And I can vibe with it. It's something similar to what I like to do. So I wanted to have you on. I wanted to collaborate with you.
Yeah.
Give you more exposure. Potentially, I don't know, my audience. But at the same time, I just wanted to talk to you. So tell me about yourself.
Tell you about what you are. I feel like there's like that's a very open-ended question.
Tell me about yourself. Like, who is Macy? Where did you come from? Like, you popped up and Macy all of a sudden all over social media.
Oh.
Tell me.
Well, it all started August 11th, 2003. I was born in Detroit, Michigan. Well, so I lived in Michigan for about 18 years. And then we moved down here about 2 years ago. Just kind of, there are a lot of things in Michigan, a lot of family up there, but a lot of the things that were keeping us cemented there were starting to pass. So we came down here to Florida, and we kind of found Flagler County. And, my dad's been in business, my whole life, so about 20 plus years. So I always knew I wanted to kind of go down something like that. I just didn't always know what that looked like. There were different things that we tried, but when I was 17, I started a podcast called What Would You Say to Your Younger Self? So I did about 200 episodes of that, and I interviewed just pretty much anyone that I could talk to. A lot of people that like my dad knew, or then like friends of those people and stuff. So constant referrals and word of mouth. Of just, I was young and I just wanted to understand how other people were doing it, and I was learning so much from other people and how they raised their business to, like over 100 people that I interviewed were like $1 million earners, right?
Oh, wow,
million plus. Cool. So they all had like a lot of great things that I started to pick up and incorporate in my life. But when we moved to Flagler, we were thinking of, starting up the podcast again. But I noticed that this is a great community, and it is like very tight knit, and it is something that like, which is great, and that's what we wanted, but like, how do you enter a community that is like so close to each other when you don't have as much in common with them? So we were like, well, how do we come from like the most giving standpoint as possible? We can't ask Flagler, like we can't take from Flagler until we give something to them.
I understand that.
So it took us some time, but we found a new topic. So I went back to podcasting, but as you know, instead of doing like what would you say to your younger self, I did, why I love Flagler County. I wanted to know myself more about Flagler, wanted to know more businesses in Flagler, and what's a better way to do that than, learning about how people came to Flagler, right? Which is like, everyone has their own story. I don't know if people realize that, but like, not like most people are so different, but they all have such similar stories. So like we all have to like find Flagler. I feel it's not like you wake up one day and you're like, I'm gonna move to Flagler County. It's like a family member moved here, or someone told you, or some people are driving on 95 and they found Podcoast. So it's like there are different ways that people found Flagler. It's so cool to learn. And then how did they start their business here too? What are they doing, and what do they like to do a part of the community? And I just wanted to talk to everyone I could. So I think I talked to like maybe 130 businesses at this point on the podcast, which has been really great. Just to get to know them and to get to know the community. And so it's been really great those last, I think I started like maybe like end of November, beginning of December for the podcast.
Right. So I resonate with that because I didn't know much about Flagler before I met my wife, and my wife is from Flagler, so that's the only reason we're here, really. How did you come here first? Like, did you guys have connection here? Before I forget.
No. So again, like we're from Michigan, we're from the Detroit area, and my dad has always loved Florida. He's always wanted to move down here. So we used to snowbird to Kissimmee.
Okay.
And then we also used to go to Daytona Beach a lot. And during like the end of the pandemic, so like maybe like end of 2020, beginning of 2021, we actually stayed a few months in Port Orange. And from there, when, summer 2021 came around and we were realizing that all the stuff keeping us in Michigan were no longer as necessary, we were like, well, what do we do now? So my mom, like we all pooled together as a family, came up with the criteria of like population, where we wanted to be. My dad wanted to be on like this coast with, a beach nearby, other things like that. And so my mom just like went up the coast and she counted cities. She would Google them, see if they met our criteria or not. And she came to us one day. She's like, "What about Palm Coast?" And we were like, "What is that? Like, we've never heard of that." And she was like, "It's a little bit north of Port Orange," which we were familiar with. So she's like, "Let's check it out." So we flew down here for a week and we stayed and we found a house and then we put in our offer and it was a new build. So we had to wait a few months and then we moved in beginning of March to Palm Coast in 2022.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's awesome.
I don't know how many people have come here because they're like, I'm tired of Michigan. I'm tired of whatever is going on up here. Was it cold? Is that why you guys were?
Yeah, there's a bunch of
snowbirding it.
Yeah, we were snowbirding it. Because like I said, my dad's originally from India.
Yeah.
So cold is not necessarily his forte. It's not something he was grown up with.
What is
this? Yeah. Well, he lived all in the north when he came to the States. He came to Jersey, then he went to Minnesota, and then he met my mom in Michigan.
Nice.
And so he was like, once I'm married, like, I'm going to move to Florida and stuff. And then he met my mom, and all my mom's family's in Michigan. So it made it really hard for them to move to Florida. So they just kind of stayed up there for like the first. So I think they were there for like maybe 28 years. Possibly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You just never acclimated to the cold.
You never know. No. Which is terrible. I used to be a figure skater.
Yeah.
So I didn't get many reprieve.
You did say that.
I've been a figure skater I was a figure skater for like 15 years. So you get no reprieve on that.
No. So you acclimated then to the cold?
No, I never liked the cold.
But you were figure skating. Like,
but like if you move around,
so you're not as cold?
Yeah, I have a jacket. You skate around, you do stuff, so it's like not as bad.
You're not convincing me that's not cold.
No, it's cold.
Okay,
but like,
but it's not so bad because you can move.
Yeah, it's because you can move and like, and then like you don't want to skate for like an hour or two. I usually skate at like 2 hours every other day.
Okay,
so like 3-4 times a week, 2 hours usually.
Yeah.
And then you're done, and then you go into cuddle up in a blanket, and then hot chocolate, and that's it.
That's nice. That's cool though.
Yeah,
that's cool to have that experience though too. I've never done anything that was super competitive per se.
Okay.
Yeah, so I assume you like competed.
Yeah. I competed in a plethora of things. So I did solo, I did synchronized, I did theater on ice, which is a thing. And then we also did I did duets, and then I did drama.
Okay, what is theater on ice? That's a play?
No.
Okay,
it's not like a play, but it's like a musical.
Okay.
It's like a musical. So we don't speak or we don't do things. Obviously, you can't hear us, but it's like musical soundtracks, and we would build sets and stuff, and we would skate around and act it out as best as we can on the ice. And then that's what theater on ice was for us.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I like that. I've never seen that on ice. That's
cool. Disney on ice is what you think about.
Yeah, I just never have seen how that actually works. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. If you ever,
I've seen commercials.
Yeah. So if anyone's thinking Disney on Ice, if you just Google a few clips, that's pretty much it is. It's not as high tech as Disney on Ice, but that's kind of what the idea is.
That's cool.
Of, a story and stuff.
Yeah. Now I want to transition back because we were talking about the ice game, which I love, obviously, but how did it start with podcasting? I love the original podcast that you were talking about. Is that still available somewhere?
Yeah, it's all still on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
I have a playlist of it. Not every single episode is there, but a good 100 or so are up there. What started the podcast, so to give context on the background of that is we're exiting COVID, so this is exiting 2020. So this is the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, and I'm 17. And where we lived in Michigan, it was very cooped up. So I don't know how it was down here for people who were here, wherever you were, but it was very there just really wasn't anything to do anymore.
Okay.
And so we kind of were we don't know how we want to start putting me into the business world when there wasn't much of what left.
Yeah.
So my dad came up with this idea of the podcast. It really originated as a reason to network. And to have conversations with people again, as silly as it sounds, but to really work up that conversation skill again.
Sure.
Because I hadn't really had to talk to a lot of people in a very specific context in a very long time.
Yeah.
Because my dad has lunch and learn events here Palm Coast, but he hosted one every month when I was a child.
Oh, he did? So this is nothing new?
No.
Oh, wow.
So I was very used to all of it. I was very used to all of those things, but we hadn't done them in a while. So we just kind of, especially for me, it was like I was so young during all of this. It wasn't like a real skill I was building up. So we decided to start kind of with that. So that's really what started it and like pushed it. And it really helped with conversational skills and interviewing skills, which are like two completely different things.
I agree.
And then just a reason to network and talk to people, because otherwise, like, I can show up to networking events, but if I don't have anything, they're gonna be like, "What are you actually doing here, then?" So it was a really great way, and people were very receptive to me having the podcast and being on it. And people were very supportive. So it made my life so easy.
It's funny that you said that, though, with COVID, because there's kind of like a generation that came up during COVID and they just lacked the communication skills necessary to actually connect with people.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And then you kind of got back into it. And for you do a lot of them via Zoom. And so it started during COVID. Was that like a way to kind of still have it going because it's remote via Zoom?
Yes, a lot of the people I was interviewing were all across the country.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's why it started off on Zoom. And the reason I still do Zoom is because it's just easier, honestly, for everyone. Yeah. I'm sure you understand, like, we're in a physical location, and it's like, it's a little bit different to set up than it is like, hey, if you just pull up your computer for 10, 15 minutes, you can do it and knock it out. Yeah. It's just a lot easier for me, but people still really like it, because also people can have their own backgrounds, and they can choose what they want, and they really like that, and they can, like, I had a lady on yesterday who does, like, candles, so she had a huge candle set up so people could see everything that she does.
Very cool.
And she did it from the comfort of her home, because she's not even in Flagler, but she does business in Flagler, so I'm like, come on, talk about it, for sure. I'd love to.
Yeah, that's cool, because it's a convenience thing, though, too. Like, because you're not necessarily going to have an on-site location at 8 p.m.
Right.
That's, you want to be home or whatever. But, of course, somebody can jump on Zoom at 8 p.m. and do 15 minutes and block that out and control the settings. So,
not that I do 8 p.m. calls. No. That's too late. No one texts me at 8 p.m. I'm
7:59.
Okay, no, maybe like 7:58. That's fine.
So, growing up in a household with your dad, Manesh.
Yeah.
Did you have a choice, or did you
have a choice?
No, like,
no, I was born.
You had to be an entrepreneur. There's no way around it.
I don't know.
It's in your DNA.
Much. I feel like, I would say it's kind of in my DNA. So my dad has had his own business my whole life, and my mom's side of the family, they've had their own business their whole life. So my mom's family owned a Chinese restaurant my whole life. They had it for 45 years. They closed it in 2019 just for retirement reasons, but it ended up being such good timing. So I worked at the restaurant from ages. I started working at 7, but I started working part-time officially at 11 to 16. So I was very used to, like, different areas of entrepreneurship, like my dad who worked from home versus like my aunt who ran the restaurant. They're both entrepreneurship. They both own their own business, but it's completely different lines of work. And then I also worked at the restaurant, like, as an employee. So I saw so many different facets of the business world and how work works. So for me, I guess it was mostly like, for me, I didn't really see another choice. There wasn't like a huge desire I had to do something else with a job title. There are other things I like to do, and it's great because I'm doing a lot of the things I like to do. Like, I learned video production and editing as a child in middle school, and I'm doing that now. So it's like I don't have to go off to film school, and I have friends who've gone off to film school and they're doing great. But I personally didn't have to, because I'm actually doing it, and I'm so in control of everything that I'm doing. It makes my life really easy.
I was just thinking, though, as you were speaking, like, there's so many individuals younger that are afraid with entrepreneurship. Like, but you were in such a great place where that was probably encouraged. Versus like a normal family. That's probably not the best word, but an average family that doesn't have entrepreneurs in them. They're like, oh, you want to go start a business? Good luck. I hope So it's just so cool to have somebody here to talk about that. So you've been podcasting for a while, and I love what you're doing. I resonate with it. I told you about that when we started. So what is one of the coolest things you've learned from podcasting Why I Love Flagler?
Podcasting in general, or Why I Love Flagler kind of specifically?
The one that you're doing now, Why I Love Flagler.
I think I've learned just the power of networking. Like, it sounds really weird, but getting to know people to get them on the podcast, and doing it in person. I hadn't had to do any of it in person before. I'd done I'd met a few people in person, but I did a lot of it organically here. So learning on just like the communication of like what are the important words that are resonating with people, right? When I say podcast, do I have to add an extra word? Do I have to add in the description of what that looks like? How do I kind of frame it to make sense to this person I'm talking to, that they don't feel like they're being recited some random script? It's like, hey, no, this is genuine. Like, I love what you're doing. Can I have you on my podcast? So I think I've learned the extra, because like we were saying, like, conversation skills and interviewing skills are not the same skills, right? Like, they're complementary of each other, but they're not necessarily the same. And networking is the same. It's like the third added, like, all right, how do you communicate with someone that they want to keep talking to you? And I know there's a big, like, be interested, not interesting, but like also if someone talks to you, but they only ever talk about themselves and they don't even know your name, did you actually get anything done with that conversation? So there's a lot of steps. So I think running the podcast, the most I've learned is just getting to talk to people first, and then also making them feel at ease. Because a lot of people in Flagler that I've interviewed haven't done a podcast before, so it's my job to make them feel as comfortable as possible. And if they come on and they're nervous, and it's because of me, I didn't do my job right, right? And they come on and they're just like, they just kind of get nervous, and that's just how it is. But like, oh, I'll be fine. Then that's okay. But like, nerves are fine. But if they're like, I'm so nervous, like, I don't know how any of this will work. I don't know, blah, 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 blah. Like, well, I didn't do a good enough job explaining to you, prepping you, and doing that. So I think seamlessly helping people get into that has been the biggest thing I've learned when it comes to podcasting, especially here in Flagler.
That's cool. It reminds me kind of detective work where I had to get a person to talk in the interview room because no one wants to. They're nervous. And so it's kind of communication skill that I feel like I've transitioned and brought over just to get people to talk. So I try and talk as least amount as possible to get them to open up and just talk and have a good conversation. So that's so cool, though, that you've been doing it much longer than me, obviously, because I wasn't a detective that long, but we had to do the same thing. We had to build that rapport. So that's cool. So what's on the horizon? Anything cool that you can let us know?
Well, right now,
or is it secret?
I don't mind keeping it. I'm just transparent. I'm open. But right now, I'm helping a few people here in Flagler with their own podcasts. That'll be really, really exciting, and helping people. So we had a group that we launched, and we were just finishing up that course. So we had 17 people in the course to help push their podcasts. And then I'm helping even like the Bold Ladies Networking Organization. So I run their podcast. So yeah, that's just kind of what's going on right now. Is just, I think a lot of people are understanding what podcasting can do, like something like this, and getting to know people and the networking skill aspect of it. And I think a lot of people are interested in, diversifying their content, and wherever I can help, I would love to help out and see what I can do for people.
That's awesome. And why is podcasting so important? Like, there's the emails you guys send out, but real quick for the audience, and this is the last question, why is it so important, specifically for an entrepreneur or a business that wants to have that exposure?
Yeah, there are a lot of different aspects to it, but what I really enjoyed about like the 15-minute podcast episodes I've been doing is it's such a pressure-free way of just talking to people, just opening that relationship up. Sometimes just starting a relationship is the hardest thing to do when it comes to networking, when it comes to talking to other businesses. And I think having a podcast where you can spotlight and other businesses while also spotlighting yourself, it really gives like just a different level of, I think, maybe like expertise to what you're doing. It's like, oh, like she runs the podcast, she knows what she's doing, she knows the guests she's getting on and stuff like that. So I think that's the first thing to understand is it's helpful for your online presence, your content, but really, really that relationship building with someone, you know, the way that you can help make them feel when they're on a podcast, you're interviewing them, you're giving them a platform, you're borrowing each other's platform. It's like the ultimate win-win-win situation for them. It's like the relationship kind of skyrockets from that. I've been able to build such great relationships based off a 15-minute Zoom call with people, right? And it's not like I'm hiding anything, they're hiding anything. Like, I interviewed Anna, who's the founder of Bold Ladies, and then 15 minutes, and then like right after we end the call, she called me up and said, actually, I've been thinking of doing a podcast. Can you run it for me? Can you do all of the editing and all of it? And I was like, sure, right? It's not like she bombarded me or I bombarded her. It's like 15 minutes. She felt comfortable with me. She could see I was confident. She hires me. And like, that's just kind of what I want to help people understand. Like, there's a lot that you can do when it comes to relationship building on the podcast.
That's true. I love that. One thing that I've learned about having any type of content where somebody else is in it, it's like a soft endorsement. Like, it's going to hit their audience as well. And now you have had exposure to those people that are part of their audience. And it's fantastic.
Definitely.
It's a way to have those connections and spiderweb into
for sure. Because
you never know who they know.
You never know. There are so many people who come up to me, they're like, oh my gosh, I watched this episode you did with like my friends. You know, this is my friend, and you interviewed me, so now I feel like I know you. I'm like, cool, sounds good. I don't really, like, I'd love to get to know you. Like, let's get to know each other now. Because you know this other person I interviewed, and it's really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the things that are on the horizon for you.
Thank you.
It's cool that you, like me, have only been here about 2 years.
Yeah.
And the impact that is taken off from your end, and Manesh's end, and all that. And just really being able to start something almost brand new, you'd say, and just have an impact on the community. So
it's been awesome. It's been really, really grateful, and I want to give a huge shout out that the people of Flagler have been interested in it, right? Because like I said, you can keep on pushing things, but if they're not accepting it, there's no point. So whatever success or whatever you want to say I've had is really because of the people I brought on, the people who've accepted me, and people who want to continue talking to me. So I want to make sure I give that shout out. I'm very grateful and very humble that everyone keeps talking to me, that they want to still know me. So I think that's very kind as well.
Now, do you have a schedule for when you release podcasts? Or
no, I don't either. Yeah, I post them as quick as I can get the edit turnaround, and then I let the world know that it's there.
Okay, shout out your social media so that everybody knows.
Sure, everything is under Macy Baxi, Macy. I spell my name with a Y. I don't know why people don't know that. Macy with a Y. B as in boy, AXI is my last name. That's where everything is. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, which is where a lot of the podcasts are. Definitely go check that out. That's the best way to find me.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to learn more about how to start your own podcast, feel free to reach out. Definitely check out her content. She's putting out a lot of great information about Flagler County. You want to know where to go get your nails done. I'm sure she might have a podcast for that, because she just got her nails done.
I did. She was on my podcast as well.
Okay, so there you go. So guys, check her out. Make sure you follow her content and also connect with her, because podcasting is important for your business. So I want to also give a shout out to Mike here at Good Vibes Nutrition for just allowing us this space to really have a conversation.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.